In this video, I'm going to explain how each of the consumables work, the best strategies for using them, and whether or not you should choose them as your starting item. Obviously, since you do not have the option to choose from all of these items until you hit level 20, those of you who are a lower level will need to make do with what you have until you level up. The first item is the Speed Potion. The Speed Potion increases your movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds, increasing the distance that you can cover significantly more than any of the other consumables. This makes the Speed Potion particularly great as your starting item when you are wanting to get to a place on the map that is further than you can parachute. It is also the most helpful item for getting out of the radiation zone. The Speed Potion is a great offensive item for running down a kill because it allows you to make up the distance lost when using your skills and main attack, and I used to think that it was a good defensive item for running away, but I have learned the hard way that that is not true. Even though the Speed Potion would theoretically give the most distance between you and another player, it does it gradually, allowing your enemy to see where you are going and never lose track of your footprints, especially if they have better boots than you. And while I would argue that it is stupid for them to spend that much time chasing you, people do stupid things when they're trying to get a kill. The Flash Scroll, on the other hand, immediately puts an extra 5 meters between you and them. And if you use the scroll to travel through a wall or after using a skill, you can often get out of their sight range, which has a much stronger psychological effect, and they often stop chasing you. You can use a Flash Scroll to catch someone for a kill, but that is usually not as good as the Speed Potion. The Flash Scroll is the fastest way to dodge a skill being used on you, which is obviously a game changer. It is a great item for initiating a team fight, especially if you're a tank and you have skills that use your character as ground zero. And then lastly, the Flash Scroll is just discombobulating. Even if you aren't dodging anything, using the Flash Scroll in the middle of a fight can often confuse your enemies long enough to get the upper hand. The Heal Scroll, in my opinion, is only a good starting item if you are playing in a 4-man team, because in the beginning of the game, 15% of your health and 15 extra speed for 2 seconds isn't gonna make that much of a difference. It can make some difference even in the beginning of the game if you are healing several of your teammates in a team fight, but the Heal Scroll really shines at the end of the game. If you are a tank, the Heal Scroll can instantly heal over 500 hit points, which is a big deal even in a solo game, and if you're in a team, you can multiply that effect. Though it can be hard to heal more than one teammate because 3 meters is about the distance of hitting someone with the spear. The only reason to choose the Weaken Potion or Lightning Scroll is if you are wanting to get an early game kill on someone that has better gear than you, which is in my opinion a dangerous approach to the game, but I still do it from time to time and it often pays off. These items are incredibly powerful for winning a one-on-one fight. The Lightning Scroll stuns them for 1 second and then slows them at 50% for another second, and the Weaken Potion reduces their damage by 40%, attack speed by 30%, and slows them by 40%, all for 2.5 seconds. So much like the Speed Potion and Flash Scroll, if you do the math, the Weaken Potion will have a bigger impact, especially if you apply it before they use their skills. But it is gradual, so the Lightning Scroll will have a stronger psychological effect. Do not underestimate the power of the psychological effect of an item. When a player is running for their life as you attack them, they are receiving damage and you are not. So sometimes the best thing you can do is make someone think they are going to lose, even if that is not necessarily true. So to sum up these two items, they are both really good at shutting down one player. I recommend using the Weakness Potion if you are at a diamond level or above, since those players usually know if they can win a fight or not, and the Lightning Scroll if you are platinum or below. The Purifier removes all bad effects and then reduces the effect of future debuffs by somewhere around 30 to 50% for the next 3 seconds. This is a pretty self-explanatory item that is great in team games and against enemies with lots of crowd control, but it is a horrible starting item. The Hourglass makes you invulnerable for 2 seconds. You can't do anything during those 2 seconds, but your enemies can. So the trick to using the Hourglass is timing it to where your enemies waste their most powerful skills on you while you are invulnerable. This is really effective against enemies that do burst damage with their skills like the Fog Blade or the Curved Blades, but the Hourglass is going to be the most effective in a team game. Watch how when my friend gets ambushed, he does some AoE damage but then pops his Hourglass right before they kill him. While their focus and skills are still on him, the rest of us kill the whole team before those 2 seconds are even finished. So the Hourglass is an epic item if used well, but it is also a horrible starting item. The Molotov is an amazing item that creates a flaming explosion with a 10-meter diameter. The flames last for 5 seconds and does 4% of their max hit points in true damage every second, so that means it can do up to a total of 20% of their hit points. It damages all enemies in the circle, but it does not hurt you or your allies, making this, in my opinion, the best in-game item for a team game. I recommend that every 4-man team should have at least one of their players choose this as their starting item. Even though it is not as effective early game, it is an incredible zoning item that can often split up the enemy team or provide a safe spot for a ranged teammate. I do not recommend it as a starting item for solo games, but it's still a very effective in-game item even for solo queue, especially if you have chosen a weapon with a lot of crowd control. For example, you can see here that I placed this Molotov right before I try to stun this guy. He's a great player, so he was able to dodge my stun, but then I was able to knock him up into the air and use my wide sweep skill to push him back onto the Molotov, which ended up getting me the win for that solo game. The trap is very similar to the Molotov in that it does damage to enemies and not allies in an area for 5 seconds after it is triggered. It does 3% of their max HP of true damage each second they are in the area, so that would be a total of 15% if they stay there. Traps are an awesome in-game item because they do damage based on a percentage of their health, and at the end of the game the safe zone is small enough that it is easier to pick where you want to have the fight. I saved the invisibility potion for last because in my opinion it is by far the best starting item for a solo game. No matter how good you are at this game, there will be times that you land right next to someone who gets good items before you do. Flash scrolls and speed potions are great, but if they got good boots and a weapon that gives them a lot of mobility, the only item in the game that will save you from them is the invisibility potion. If you have not seen my video with 131 tips and tricks for this game, I strongly recommend checking it out. I explain in that video how to best use invisibility potions by changing your direction after applying them. I also point out in that video that you can use an invisibility potion to cancel the effect of someone scouting you. However, there are a few things that I didn't mention. When you are invisible, be careful not to use dashing skills that do damage, because if you do damage to anything, even if it's a minion, it will cancel your invisibility early. Enemy scouts will detect you if you are invisible, so you need to make sure to take those out or wait the 90 seconds until they disappear automatically, though the best players are good enough to place scouts as they chase someone who went invisible. Lastly, an invisibility potion is a great way to put yourself in a winning position, like in this game where I use an invisibility potion to sneak up on Heiko, who is one of the top 100 players in the server. We both have fog blades, which means that the person who attacks first will probably win. Well, that's it guys, hope that helps. I'm still collecting tips and tricks for a second tips and tricks video, so if you guys know anything that I did not put in my last video, please leave them in a comment below. I also have a few other notes that I have put in the pinned comment of this video. Alright guys, I'll see you next time.